To access free topic sheets, worksheets, or to book an online class, visit ilearneasy.co.uk. Brain, lungs, heart, spleen, stomach, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, small intestine, large intestine, bladder or urinary bladder. The brain is the body's control center. It's held and protected by the skull. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. It's divided into two halves called hemispheres. The corpus callosum connects the two hemispheres. Each hemisphere is then divided into regions called lobes. Each lobe has a different function. So here are the different parts of the brain: the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, cerebellum, and brainstem. The brain is responsible for many different things, including thinking, decision-making, emotion, memory, speech production, as well as muscle control, coordination, balance, and sensory reception. The frontal lobes are the largest lobes. They're located at the front of the brain. They're responsible for a few things. This includes thinking, self-control, making decisions, attention, judgment, problem-solving, planning, and emotions. The frontal lobe is also responsible for motor skills and speech production. The parietal lobes are just behind the frontal lobe. They're responsible for organizing and interpreting sensory information to other parts of the brain. The occipital lobes are at the back of the brain. They're mainly involved in visual processing, including recognition of shapes, colors, patterns, motion, etc. The occipital lobe is also involved in reading. The temporal lobes are at the level of the ears. They're responsible for processing auditory information, visual memory, verbal memory, and language comprehension. They're also involved in recognizing and understanding reactions and emotions of others. The cerebellum is located at the back of the brain below the occipital lobes. They're responsible for fine motor skills, including fine movement of hands and feet. The cerebellum is also responsible for balance, coordination, and posture. The brainstem is located in front of the cerebellum and connects to the spinal cord. It's made up of three major parts: midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. The midbrain is at the top of the brainstem. It controls eye movement, and it also processes visual and auditory information. The pons is the largest part of the brainstem. It's just below the midbrain. It contains nerves that help to connect to different parts of the brain. It also contains some cranial nerves, which are involved in facial movement and for transmitting sensory information. The medulla oblongata is the lowest part. It controls the functions of the heart and lungs, helping to regulate the function of things such as breathing, swallowing, sneezing, coughing, etc. Heart. The heart is a vital organ providing blood to the body. It's part of the circulatory system made up of the heart, blood vessels, and the blood. Humans have a double circulatory system. In the first circuit, deoxygenated blood is pumped to the lungs to be oxygenated and then returns to the heart. In the second circuit, oxygenated blood is pumped around the body by the heart and blood vessels. The heart is located in the rib cage near the lungs. The heart continuously pumps in a consistent rhythm. Electrical impulses in the heart ensure it beats with a constant rhythm and rate. The heart rate can increase or decrease depending on how much blood the body requires. For example, when you're exercising, the heart beats faster in order to pump more blood around the body, whereas when you're resting, the heart beats slower. The heart has 4 chambers. The small upper chambers are called atria, and the lower chambers are called ventricles. So here, right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. The heart also has 4 valves. These are like little doors which only open one way. This ensures that the blood is flowing in the right direction and doesn't flow backwards. Tricuspid and pulmonary valve are on the right. The mitral and aortic valves are on the left. It's important to remember that veins carry blood to the heart and arteries carry blood away from the heart. The superior and inferior vena cava are large veins that deliver deoxygenated blood into the heart. The superior vena cava delivers blood into the heart from the superior part of the body. This includes the head, neck, arms, and chest. The inferior vena cava delivers blood into the heart from inferior parts of the body. This includes organs in the abdomen, legs, feet, etc. The pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. The aorta is the main artery that carries oxygenated blood away from the heart to the rest of the body. The pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. Now let's go through the full process. Deoxygenated blood from the body flows into the right atrium via the superior and inferior vena cava. The right atrium contracts and the blood flows through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The ventricle contracts and the blood flows up through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery. This is then taken out of the heart into the lungs. At the same time, the oxygenated blood from the lungs enters the heart through the left atrium via the pulmonary veins. The left atrium contracts and blood then flows through the mitral valve into the left ventricle. The left ventricle contracts and oxygenated blood flows up through the aortic valve into the aorta. This blood is then sent around the body via arteries. Remember, in one heartbeat, blood enters and exits the heart from both sides. Diastole is when the heart relaxes and fills with blood, Both the right and left atrium fill with blood. Systole is when the heart contracts and pumps blood. Both the right and left ventricles pump blood into the arteries. This process then repeats. The heart itself also needs a constant supply of oxygenated blood to function. The coronary arteries that branch off the aorta supply this. These are wrapped around the outside of the heart. Here is a diagram illustrating diastole. The heart is relaxed and the heart fills with blood. As you can see, the heart receives blood through the veins into both atria. Following atrial systole, the blood is pushed into the ventricles. Ventricular systole occurs, in which the blood is pushed into the arteries and out of the heart. Lungs. Lungs are part of the respiratory system. The respiratory system works to provide oxygen into the bloodstream from the air which we inhale, and releases carbon dioxide when we exhale. This occurs automatically, without you even having to think about it. It's part of the autonomic nervous system. The lungs have different parts to help take in air, filter it, and then oxygenate the blood. The lungs fill the chest cavity. They are held and protected by the rib cage. The trachea splits into tubes and extend into each lung. These are two bronchi, the right and left bronchi. Each bronchi enters each lung. The smaller bronchi then split into even smaller tubes called bronchioles. The bronchioles end with tiny sacs called alveoli. They are surrounded by a network of blood vessels called capillaries. Now let's go through the process of breathing in. When you inhale, the air you breathe in travels through your nose or mouth down the trachea. The air then travels through the bronchi into each lung. From here, the air travels through the bronchioles into the alveoli. Alveoli expand when a person inhales and contracts when a person exhales. Alveoli are surrounded by a network of blood capillaries. This is where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. The alveoli have a large surface area, thin walls, and a good blood supply, which allows the diffusion of these gases. Oxygen diffuses out of the alveoli and into the blood. This blood is then carried throughout the body via the blood vessels. Carbon dioxide diffuses out of the blood and into the alveoli. The carbon dioxide received into the lungs is then exhaled. Stomach. The stomach lies beneath the diaphragm. It's a J-shaped organ. It plays a role in digesting food. The stomach is divided into 5 parts. The cardia is just beneath the esophagus. Sphincter muscles prevents food from flowing back up to the esophagus or mouth. The fundus is to the left of the cardia. The body is the main part of the stomach where food is broken down. The pyloric antrum is the lower part of the stomach. Partially digested food is kept here before it flows to the small intestine. The pyloric canal is a small part of the stomach that connects to the first part of the small intestine. It contains the pyloric sphincter helping to control how much content flows into the small intestine. The stomach contains muscles and gastric juices. The muscles of the stomach help to change the size depending on how much food there is. For example, if you've eaten too much food, then it will expand. The muscles in the stomach also help to break down the food. Gastric juices in the stomach help to kill bacteria and contains enzymes. Together, the muscles and gastric juices help to break down food thoroughly. When you swallow food, it enters the cardia of the stomach. The fundus adapts to how much food is entering the stomach. It expands as the amount of food increases. The body of the stomach produces gastric juices which mixes with the food. The stomach's muscles contract to help mix and break down the food. The food then exits the stomach via the pylorus into the first part of the small intestine. Liver. The liver plays a vital role in the body's metabolic system. The liver processes contents of the blood to ensure the composition stays the same. The liver does this in many different ways. The organ is located just under the rib cage on the right upper side of the abdomen near the gallbladder. The liver is supplied with oxygenated blood via an artery. The liver has many functions. The first is to purify blood it receives from around the body. The nutrients received in the blood from around the body is processed by the liver and broken down. These include fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, etc. The liver ensures a good and constant level of nutrients are in the body. For example, the liver breaks down carbohydrates into sugar. Depending on the body's needs, the liver will send this sugar back to the body to be used as energy, or it stores some nutrients that are left over if the body doesn't need them straight away. The stored nutrients can then be used later on when the body needs it. The blood going into the liver sometimes contains toxic substances or substances that are useless to the body. So the liver detoxifies toxic substances so it doesn't cause harm to the body. It also metabolizes drugs. For anything else that's useless to the body, the liver removes it via excretion. The liver produces plasma proteins and blood clotting factors. These clotting factors prevent the body from losing too much blood. The liver also produces cholesterol. Cholesterol is important for cell structure. It also produces hormones, vitamin D, and other substances. Another role of the liver is that it produces bile. This is a fluid released by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. The gallbladder is a small green pouch found just under the liver. The production of bile helps with digestion and breaks down fats into fatty acids. This allows it to be taken into the small intestine for digestion. Bile also helps to destroy bacteria, helping to fight infections. Therefore, the liver is a vital organ with many important functions. Pancreas. The pancreas sits behind the stomach and it has two functions: exocrine function and an endocrine function. The exocrine function is to help with digestion. The endocrine function is to regulate blood sugar. The pancreas's exocrine glands produce enzymes which help with digestion. The enzyme amylase breaks down carbohydrates. The enzyme lipase breaks down fats. The enzyme protease helps to digest proteins. The pancreas also produces pancreatic juice. This further helps with digestion. The food is digested and converted into energy. This energy is then released into the bloodstream for the body to use. The endocrine function is to regulate blood sugar. The pancreas produces and releases insulin and glucagon. When there's too much sugar in the blood, the pancreas produces and releases insulin into the blood. This helps to remove glucose by converting it into energy and releasing it into the blood. This energy can also be stored for later use. When blood sugar is low, the pancreas produces and releases a hormone called glucagon. This tells the cells and liver to release the stored sugar back into the blood. Kidneys. Kidneys are two bean-shaped organs. The kidneys maintain the body's chemical balance. They do this by filtering the blood and excreting waste products as well as excess fluid as urine. The kidneys are protected by the lower part of the rib cage. Kidneys receive unfiltered blood from the renal artery. Each kidney contains millions of tiny units called nephrons. These are used for filtration. The kidney identifies useful and waste products in the blood. For example, if vitamins and minerals are required by the body, then the kidney will allow these to flow back to the body. The filtered blood returns back to the body via the renal vein. Any excess water and waste leaves in the form of urine. Narrow tubes called ureters carry the urine into the bladder to be released. So here we have the kidneys. The narrow tubes extending from the kidneys are called ureters, and these carry urine into the bladder. Alongside filtering blood and producing urine, the kidneys also detect body's water level. So if you drink too much water, then the kidneys detect this and will release it through the bladder as urine. This is why, when you're well hydrated, your urine color is lighter. If you don't drink enough water, the kidneys will also detect this and will release some water back into the bloodstream. This is why, when you're dehydrated, your urine color is yellow. The kidneys also secrete hormones. For example, a hormone to increase red blood cell production or a hormone to increase blood pressure. Lastly, the kidneys activate vitamin D. Remember, we have two kidneys. However, a person can live fine with just one kidney. Bladder. The bladder is part of the urinary tract system. This also includes the kidneys, ureter, bladder, and urethra. The kidneys receive unfiltered blood from the renal artery. The kidneys then work to filter the blood by identifying useful and waste products in the blood. For example, if vitamins and minerals are required by the body, then the kidneys will allow these to flow back to the body. The filtered blood then returns back to the body via the renal vein. The waste products and excess fluid in the blood is removed and released as urine. The urine produced travels down the ureters of each kidney into the bladder. The bladder is made up of muscle, and its primary role is to store urine. it can stretch and contract. The bladder also contains valves to prevent the urine from flowing back up to the ureters. It stretches to store the urine and then contracts when releasing urine via the urethra. If you drink too much water, then the kidneys detect this and will release it through the bladder as urine. This is why, when you're well hydrated, your urine color is lighter. If you don't drink enough water, then the kidneys will also detect this and will release some water back into the bloodstream. This is why, when you're dehydrated, your urine color is yellow. Gallbladder. The gallbladder is a small green pouch found just under the liver. One of the functions of the liver is to produce bile. This is a fluid released by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. The production of bile helps with digestion and breaks down fats into fatty acids. This allows it to be taken into the small intestine for digestion. Bile also helps to destroy bacteria, helping to fight infections. Small and large intestines. Intestines are groups of tubes that digest food, filter out the body's waste, and absorb water. Food that's broken down from the stomach travels to the small intestine. This is where most of digestion and absorption of nutrients takes place. This food then passes through the large intestine. Water and salt is absorbed here. This causes the waste products to turn into a solid waste material, which can then be excreted. Spleen. The spleen is a small organ behind the stomach under the lungs. The spleen stores blood and filters it. It's able to recognize old or damaged blood cells, and the spleen is also able to break down and remove them out of the body. This means that clean and well-functioning blood is able to circulate around the body. The spleen also helps to filter out infections by creating white blood cells to fight bacteria and viruses. Therefore, it's a small but very important organ in our body. Living organisms have life processes. Organisms need to do these in order to be counted as being alive. These processes are movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Movement. All living organisms should be able to move. Respiration. This is the process in which living organisms get energy. Sensitivity. This is where living organisms can interact and detect changes in the environment using their senses. Growth. All living things grow. Reproduction. This is the process in which living things make more living things of the same type. Excretion. This is the process by which organisms get rid of waste. Nutrition. Living things take in and use food. A cell is the basic building block of all living organisms. They are very small and we need a microscope to see them. Some organisms are unicellular. This means that they only have one cell. For example, bacteria, protists, and yeast. Some organisms are multicellular. This means that they have many cells. For example, animals and plants. Animals and plants are both multicellular, however, they have different types of cells. In animals and plants, similar cells form tissues. Similar tissues form organs. Different organs then interact to form systems. Different systems interact to form an organism. Let's look at some examples. Muscle cells work together to form muscle tissue. Muscle tissue then combine to form an organ, for example, the heart, the stomach, or the liver. Different organs work together to make up systems. For example, the cardiovascular system, the muscular system, the digestive system, etc. Different systems in the body then make up the organism. Root hair cells work together to form root tissue. Root tissue then combine to form roots of the plant. These then make up the transport system. The transport system makes up part of a plant. So, the different systems work together to make up the plant. There are 12 systems in the body. Remember that similar cells form tissues, similar tissues form organs, different organs then interact to form systems. Different systems then work together to form an organism. In this video, we will learn about the 12 important systems in the body and how they function. Integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system, nervous system, circulatory system, respiratory system, digestive system, excretory system, urinary or renal system, reproductive system, endocrine system, immune system. Integumentary system. This system forms the outermost layer of animals. It helps to protect what comes in and what goes out of the body. It consists of the skin, nails, hair, and some glands. Skeletal system. This system consists of bones that helps to support the body and protects the organs inside the body. Bones also produce blood cells in the bone marrow. Muscular system. This system consists of muscles that help the body to move around. They do this by contracting and relaxing. There are 3 types of muscles in the body: skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and smooth muscles. This system is also referred to as the musculoskeletal system. Some muscles are attached to bones, and they help to hold the bones in place. Muscles also help to move blood around the body. Nervous system. This consists of the brain, spinal cord, and nerves making up the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The system works by sending electrical impulses around the body, enabling them to move. Circulatory system. This system consists of the heart and blood vessels. The heart pumps blood around the body via blood vessels and removes any waste products. Respiratory system. This system works to provide oxygen into the bloodstream from the air which we inhale and releases carbon dioxide when we exhale. This occurs automatically without you even having to think about it. It's part of the autonomic nervous system. It's made up of the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the esophagus, and the lungs. Digestive system. This system works to process the food that's eaten into substances so that the body can use it as energy. In order to do this, the food that's eaten passes through the digestive system. There are many body parts and organs that have different roles in this system. The parts of the body involved are mouth, tongue, teeth, esophagus, stomach, pancreas, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, and large intestine. This broken food that passes through the large intestine turns into solid waste material. This is then removed from the body via the process of excretion. This occurs in the excretory system, urinary system, or renal system. This system consists of the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra. The kidneys receive unfiltered blood from the renal artery. The kidneys then work to filter the blood by identifying useful and waste products in the blood. The waste products and excess fluid in the blood is removed and released as urine. The urine produced travels down the ureters from each kidney into the bladder. The bladder stretches to store the urine and then contracts when releasing urine via the urethra. Reproductive system. This system differs in males and females. It's where the process of fertilization occurs. Endocrine system. This system consists of glands that help to regulate the processes in the body. The glands in the body are able to detect and distribute hormones around the body. Immune system. This is also known as the lymphatic system. It works to detect foreign cells and sends white blood cells to fight infections. Therefore, it's a very important part of our body. Cranium, jawbone, clavicle, scapula, sternum, rib cage, spine, pelvis, humerus, ulna, radius, carpal, metacarpals, phalanges, femur, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, phalanges. The human body has a structure of bones inside called a skeleton. There are more than 200 bones in the human body. Many animals also have a skeleton. The joints in our skeletal system allow the body to move smoothly. Ligaments and muscles help to hold the skeleton together to help the body move and bend smoothly. The role of the skeleton is to support the body, help with movement, and to keep organs in place and to protect them. The cranium is the skull that holds and protects the brain and eyes. It also supports the face and gives it a structure. The jawbone is known as the mandible. It contains teeth and helps us to move our mouth whilst talking, biting and eating. The collarbone is known as the clavicle. This bone supports the shoulders in movement. The scapular bones are the shoulder blades. The breastbone is known as the sternum. It's in the center of our chest and is a flat bone that works with the rib cage to provide protection for organs. The rib cage holds and protects the heart and lungs. It also provides help with breathing. The spine, or spinal column, is behind, and it protects the spinal cord. The spine is made up of small bones called vertebrae. The spine is very important as it helps to hold us straight, providing structure and support with movement. The pelvis is a bone that holds and protects the pelvic organs. It also helps support the weight of the body. The humerus is a long bone in our upper arm. This goes all the way from our shoulder to the elbow. It works to provide movement and support. The ulna and radius form the lower arm. This goes all the way down from the elbow to the wrist. The carpal bone is the bone of our wrist. Metacarpals are the bones in our hand. Phalanges are the bones in our fingers. Femur. This is the longest bone in the body. It supports the weight of the upper body and helps with movement. The kneecap is called the patella. This is where the femur meets the shin bone called tibia. It helps to protect the knee joint and connects the muscles to allow easy movement of the knee. The lower part of the leg is made up of two bones, tibia and fibula. Tarsals. Metatarsals make up the foot and phalanges are the toes. The human body has more than 600 muscles. Muscles have different movement functions. For example, pumping blood around the body, or breaking down food in the stomach, or even lifting things. Muscles are made up of small fibers that make it elastic. There are 3 types of muscles in the human body: cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, skeletal muscle. Cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is the muscle of the heart. This type of muscle is involuntary, so the movement is activated automatically by the body. Cardiac muscles are short and branched, and they're also striated. As you can see, they have striations which are lines. Cardiac muscles also have either 1 or 2 nuclei on each fiber. Smooth muscle. Smooth muscles are in hollow organs, for example the stomach, intestines, or even blood vessels. This type of muscle is involuntary, so the movement is activated automatically by the body, so they contract and relax automatically to digest food or to aid the movement of blood. This type of muscle is spindle-shaped, it's smooth, and it has a single nucleus in each fiber. Skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscles are muscles that are attached to a bone. These muscles are usually attached to a tendon on the bone. For example, muscles in your arms or legs. Skeletal muscle movement is voluntary, so you choose when you move your muscles. They can produce fast or slow movements. Skeletal muscles are long and tubular, they're striated, and they have many nuclei on each fibre. The heart supplies blood to the body. Blood carries important materials which are required for the body to function and to keep healthy. Blood is transported around the body via blood vessels. Blood vessels play an important role in the body. They help to maintain the body's blood pressure, deliver oxygen and nutrients to cells around the body, and also transport waste products away. Our body has different types of blood vessels which all have different functions. Artery, capillary, vein. Artery. An artery takes blood away from the heart. This blood contains nutrients and water. Arteries supply this blood to the rest of the body. Arteries also transport blood from the heart to the lungs to be oxygenated. For example, the biggest artery of the heart is the aorta. This helps transport oxygenated blood to the body. Arteries have a thick muscular elastic wall that constrict and expand. They have a narrow lumen, and blood in the arteries flows at high pressure. Arteries have no valves, and they're situated very deep into the skin. The thick walls of the arteries helps to withstand the high pressure, and ultimately this means that valves aren't required. Arteries branch into smaller vessels known as arterioles. Arterioles connect to capillaries, and their function is to transport blood to the capillary beds. Arterioles are smaller than arteries and bigger than capillaries. Capillary. We can think of capillaries as an exchange center. They are tiny blood vessels which allow oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, and water to move in and out of the bloodstream. Capillaries are located between arteries and veins. They allow exchange of materials between the blood and the surrounding cells. Capillaries receive oxygen and nutrients and release waste products to be sent away. Capillaries are found around the body, for example, in the liver and kidney. Capillaries are 1 cell thick. The thin walls helps with diffusion of nutrients and waste. They have a narrow lumen. Blood flowing through is at a low pressure. There are no valves, and capillaries connect to arteries and veins. Vein. Veins carry blood to the heart. So they transport deoxygenated blood, carbon dioxide, and other waste from the body back to the heart. For example, the pulmonary vein and the vena cava. Veins have thin walls. They have a wide lumen. The blood flowing through the veins is at low pressure. Therefore, the blood requires some help to ensure that the blood doesn't flow backwards. This is why there are valves. This ensures that the slow-moving blood only flows in one direction. Veins are located superficially on the skin. Veins branch into smaller vessels known as venules. Venules connect to capillaries, and their function is to transport blood away from the capillary beds. Venules are smaller than veins and bigger than capillaries. So let's go through a diagram to illustrate how the blood flows. This is the artery, arteriole, capillary bed, venule, vein. To begin with, we have the artery that's transporting blood away from the heart to the surrounding body. An example of an artery is the aorta of the heart. The blood then flows through the artery into the smaller branch called the arteriole. Then the blood flows through the capillary bed. This is where exchange occurs between the blood and the cells. The capillaries identify useful and waste products. So nutrients and oxygen from the blood is delivered to the surrounding tissue. The blood left will now contain carbon dioxide and waste products. This blood is transported to the vein via its small branch called the venule. An example of a vein is the vena cava. This transports deoxygenated blood to the heart. The heart supplies blood to the body. Blood carries important materials which are required for the body to function and to keep healthy. These include nutrients and oxygen. Blood also helps to get rid of waste and carbon dioxide from the body, as well as fighting infections. Blood is transported around the body via blood vessels. The components of blood are red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and blood plasma. The proportions are 45% red blood cells, around 1% white blood cells and platelets, and 55% plasma. Let's begin with red blood cells. Red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes. These are produced in the bone marrow. They carry oxygen and nutrients. They contain a protein called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin helps to carry oxygen from the lungs to the rest of the body. This is what makes blood red. Carbon dioxide is then returned from the body to the lungs to be exhaled. White blood cells. White blood cells are nucleated cells, also known as leukocytes. They fight infections to keep us healthy. So when you get sick, it's the production of white blood cells that helps you fight the cause of your illness. Platelets. Platelets are also known as thrombocytes. These are fragments that help to stop bleeding and help to heal wounds by forming blood clots. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets are carried in a yellow liquid called blood plasma. Blood plasma contains mainly water and other useful and waste products. It contains proteins and hormones which help with the body's functions. Plasma also helps to regulate bleeding and clotting.